Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to be talking about pound and what that means. Word itself has a long history. Pound as a measure of weight and a measure of currency. So, word pound used to represent something, right? Real, the same as kilogram used to represent a physical thing, right? But a pound as in weight has been removed, as well as 1 kilogram to represent a physical object was removed as well recently. Just any takeaways on things that I'm going to be addressing here. So a lot of things are used to represent something, and over time, a lot of things can lose their meaning. Pound originally refers to a unit of weight. It has a long history and has been used as a unit of weight in various cultures and regions. In the context of United Kingdom, the pound was historically a unit of weight, and it was abbreviatively as uh, lb from the Latin word libra, meaning balance of scales. The pound was later adopted as unit of currency, and the system came to represent the British pound sterling. Looking back at history and having different currencies, the transition from using pound, the word pound that you represent weight, to unit of currency occurred over time, and it's a common evolution in development of monetary systems. So, if anything, that's some takeaways for people out there who prefer keeping all the value in liquid cash, right? The term pound is still used today in both contexts, referring in both a unit of currency and a unit of weight. And some of the books, I'm currently reading one book, they address this issue that so many currencies they used to represent actual weight of measure, and all the currencies that understood, or people in politics were making rules understood that it's not sustainable, I guess. When considering monetary policies, so they have removed that, and they then giving names to currencies, they removed that, so it would not necessarily represent anything. So it just people. This is a transition, right? So if people are there reading a lot of books about economy, might be aware of what I'm talking about. Take a look at the history of the British pound, represented by the symbol that most of the people might know of, compared to perhaps euro or dollar sign, as a unit of currency is quite complex and it has evolved over centuries. It's important to note that the pound's value has not always been directly tied to a specific weight of gold, but it has gone through various systems and changes. Let's take a look at a brief history and some of the understanding. Since I personally believe that it always have been tied to, and there are so many people, for some reason, most of the people understood value from UK. Most of the people understood value, and once they understand value, they tie it to precious metals. Some of them being gold, and implying some rules, regulations, and always keeping that in understanding and sharing that understanding with others, where as a measure they had to have it, but it was removed over time. If we were to begin with origins, the pound as a unit of currency in England dates back to Roman period when it was delivered from Roman libra. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's just because of value had to represent something, and not necessarily at the time in Rome. All the trade people doing trade, they had scales, right? So it even comes back to not having scales. So they what they had, they want to exchange value. So to do that, they exchange precious metals that was weight already. so with so-called coins, right? So that particular weight was exchanged for something like groceries, depending what goods or services person would be interested in buying. So that's overall process and historical dating back to history. The term pound comes from Latin word libra, which seems to balance or scales. So everything was weighed out already, the precious metal, and was given in so everyone knew actual value understanding. So if anything, later on, over many years, they were replacing and adding something to it. But overall, every coin represents its value in weight. And looking back at sterling silver, in the early history of British pound, it was often associated with a specific weight of sterling silver. The pound sterling originally referred to a pound of sterling silver. The currency's value was linked to silver content of coins. Uh, Based on what books I'm reading, some of those books have started as in copper. From copper, it progressed to silver, and from silver, it progressed to gold. So overall, depending of where you look at, I don't know what's true. Again, some of those books might be date stamped, but most of the books, this is what they're referring to. Depending what kind of information I'm reading. Again, I wasn't there at the time. I wasn't there to know exactly, but most of the books, that's what they're referring to. Gold standard. The British pound was on the gold standard at various points in its history. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, it was tied to a specific weight of gold. That's where the pound name pound comes from, right? So it used to represent something. For example, under the Gold Standard Act of 1844, 1 British pound was equal to 113.00016 grams or 7.32224 grams of pure gold. So 7.3 grams of pure gold, which I'm currently reading it, so I kind of know. In 1 year, per person will receive about 26 pounds. So 26 pounds being 7.3 grams of pure gold. So roughly this is how much people were making back then, and in comparison they could afford a lot of things back then. Perhaps a lot of things weren't be that rather be available, so not necessarily people will be having that much access, abundance of opportunities compared to perhaps a lot of people right now. But to most extent, this is about 28 pounds, something that a person will be able to receive back then. More or less back then, this is how much they will be able to receive. Let me take a look at how much gold based on the formula that I shared with you, 28 pounds, based to perhaps current minimum wages and how many grams of gold people would be able to purchase right now. I'm interested in myself. All these numbers are not necessarily as accurate based on the job that you did, and even right now, price of gold is fluctuating. But roughly speaking, right? 1844, it was for every pound you could potentially earn 7.3224 grams of gold for every pound. In a year, you would make roughly over 28 pounds. So that equals to 208.688 grams of gold. So roughly about just over 200 grams of gold back then in 1844. How much gold you can make in a year? Working in UK, right? Compared to today's figures, where you can potentially price of gold is about 49.10 pounds for every gram of gold that you would need to pay, as well with national minimum wages based on your age. If you were about 21 years old or 23 years old, you would be able to earn about 21,630 pounds a year. It's not that easy to make that sum of money to begin with within UK. Roughly, depending on what kind of profession you have, how many hours you work, is it 37.5 in the office job? Are you working perhaps physically challenging work that might be compensated slightly higher, depending on if you're working on a day rate, you're on the minimum wage, just based on your age. So many factors, right? But roughly speaking, if you were at 21,630 pounds a year, so you roughly currently you are earning about 432 grams of gold a year. So we're talking about the gold. So that's about double to what you were making in gold 100 years ago. So with new modern ways of refining gold, extracting gold, you currently, worth mentioning, you're currently making double in gold, so which is good fact, and as well as health insurance, all the benefits, perhaps nutrition that you can receive, as well as perhaps leisure that you can spend that money on. Perhaps there are more opportunities out there. So things are improving, and if anything, I guess there's a positive twist on that. Transition to fiat currency. The United Kingdom, like many other countries, moved away from the gold standard in 20th century. In 1931, the United Kingdom formally abandoned the gold standard, and the pound became a fiat currency, meaning its value is not directly tied to specific quantity of the precious metal. Meaning, pound, word pound, lost its value, right? So it doesn't really tie to anything. Just to highlight, kilogram is not tied to any physical object as well anymore, according to French. So there are a lot of organizations up there. They're improving, constantly improving, changing all the rules and regulations. For people out there who are interested in learning more, I have published a book. Name of the book is Project Fitflow. In this book, I'm sharing a lot of information for people who are interested to learn more and develop their own body with hardware. I've done myself so much work. I've done my qualifications, as well as I have worked within the industry, and I myself been with the industry for many years to understand it, as well as I have read every single book, to say the least, the top books. I have read all of those within regards to fitness industry and everything what has to do with the body. There's some information that I wouldn't be able to find in other books, perhaps more of the general books. So it's very unique industry knowledge that I'm sharing with this book, which I personally was looking for, as well as I'm sharing with you. You can find this book in the description below, as well as top retailers has it. Today, the British pound is a fiat currency. Fiat made up, not tied to anything, made from thin air. No, it doesn't mean anything, right? The pound word used to mean anything, right? And its value is determined by supply and demand in foreign exchange markets. It's not tied to specific weight of gold or any other physical commodity. So while the pound was historically associated with specific weight of silver and gold, it has not been directly tied to specific weight of gold in modern times. The transition away from the gold standard was a significant milestone in the history of the British pound. So overall, the way how we understand it today, it doesn't really work anymore. So this concept is old concept, and now there are a lot of changes taking place. Hopefully for a better and the way how we do understand things. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.